wanted all the moms out there too to know, like, it's okay. It's okay to have a bad day, to not be insta perfect. And, you know, like, my kids aren't perfect.
Thank you for joining me today. My name is Christa from Mommy Knows Best, and I'm here with Stephanie, who is an Insta mom and mom of 3, and she's made a name for herself as Honestly Mommy on Instagram. So I really am excited for her to be here today and talk all about life as a mom and having a couple home births and tell us all about her journey in motherhood. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just to get started, can you just tell us all about you?
I am 29. I am a mom of 3. I will have been married 11 years this August. I got married at the ripe old age of 18, you know, because you make all your best choices when you're a teenager, which being married has been one of my best choices, but I know everybody was so worried because we were young. My husband is a cop. He was in the military when we first got married, and then we got out and we moved back home to Minnesota to raise our family, and he took a career in law enforcement. I'm a stay-at-home mom, have been since the birth of my son 5 years ago. Somehow out of that, I was a little bored and needed something to do. Instagram turned into my something to do.
That's awesome. Well, you're doing it like awesome. I see your post, and for one, I just think you do a great job of being honest and telling all the mom truths out there and not hiding behind this Instagram world of everything's perfect all the time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
One thing I wanted to jump into, when we were talking before, you said for all 3 of your kids, you had natural birth, including 2 of them being home births. So how did you ultimately make that decision?
Lots of research. And I think it really boils down to, like, because a lot of women ask me, you know, like, my advice, and should I go hospital? Should I not? I'm like, it's individual. It really does boil down to what is right for you and, like, where you're the most comfortable. Birth is such an intense process, and, like, we're going through so much mentally and physically and emotionally that I'm like, you don't need anything to add stress to that moment. And for me, I've just never been comfortable in hospitals or with doctors. My family just doesn't have a good track record with doctors. And so it's just one of those things where, for me personally, I knew I would be way more peaceful if I was in a more like natural setting. I am not horribly comfortable with like a man being down there. It's just not my thing. So, you know, like, I just knew that I wanted women to be surrounding me in that moment, like women who'd gone through the process and knew what I was going through. And I think, like, the decision to go like natural or epidural, I know that can get to be such a big mind game for people. Again, do what's right for you. I've talked to so many women who have told me, like, my epidural rocked. I loved it. I rocked it. Great. And I'm like, that's awesome. I feel the exact same way, I guess, about my natural births. For me, it was very empowering just to know that my body could do it. And each one even got more and more better. I knew what I was doing. My first was in a birthing center. We tried for a water birth, but that didn't happen. I ended up on the bed giving birth. And then my second 2 were home births, and they were water births. We had a tub set up in my bedroom. And, you know, like, with my third, she came in under 3 hours. I knew what I was doing, and I knew exactly like how to push and how to actually like take part in the process and not fight against it. So it was really interesting. And really for me, it was just a ton of research. I mean, I read books and articles, and I talked to people who had done it. So I just like really looked at the broad spectrum and then whittled it all down and went, what would be most comfortable for me? Like, what do I feel like would be the best option and the most comfortable for me? And that was where I made my choice.
I think, yeah, the research says it all. I mean, you got to do what's best for you. And as long as you know all your options and you're like, this is my path, that's awesome. When it came down to then your natural home birth, what were the key necessities? Like the people surrounding you, or the setup? What kind of, what did you make sure to have in the room with you?
It's funny because even with the birthing center experience, which was wonderful, there were too many people in the room. I had my husband, I had my doula, there was a midwife, there was a nurse, and I think there was like somebody training. So there was just too many people. And even I know that's very few people compared to sometimes like hospital settings and stuff. So going into my home births, I knew I just wanted me. I wanted my husband, and I wanted my midwife, who actually is my aunt. So my aunt delivered my sister, and then she delivered, my babies and my sister's babies. So it's been really fun. But that I just knew that I wanted it small and super intimate. She's been a practicing midwife for like 20 years. She actually gives you a list, and you go on this special website and like go and order everything. So they, you have all of your necessities there. But I think as far as like me for like personal items, I wanted to feel pretty after I had a baby, because it's such an awkward time. I'm like, you go from babies in your tummy and everyone's like, oh, your tummy's so beautiful, to like babies out, and it's like, oh, there's still a tummy there, and it's really awkward now. And I remember after I had Zeke, my first, I didn't feel good about myself. And so even a lot of those pictures, I'm like, ugh, they're just not my favorite. So for both my second births, I went out and bought myself a nice robe that I just felt was like, that was going to be my lying in robe, and I was going to wear it, and like a couple of like really easy, like slip on jammy type things. And then this wasn't to be beautiful. This was a necessity. Those diaper things, I didn't do them with my first two births because I was like, heck no, I am not wearing those diapers. Like, yeah, I finally caved with my third and bought those, and dang, they'd be good. So if you're having a baby, I'm like, as embarrassing as it is to go to Walmart and go buy some big old Depends, they were wonderful. They were wonderful. So there you go.
Hey, you got to do what works for you. I mean, and then if it's like,
true.
If it helps, then who cares, Now going from, stay-at-home mom to being in like this Insta mom, sharing very everyday stories, how do you like deal with the feeling of needing to be perfect? I mean, just like that Instagram look. I mean, everyone has their professional photos up and, covering up, the behind the scenes. So how do you personally deal with that?
It was definitely a process. So I've been doing this for about 3 years now, very seriously for about the past year and a half. And it was probably, I think 2 years ago, I started to get really restless with the whole Instagram perfection thing. I would see these women in their stories, showing off their gorgeous houses, and like their pictures were beautiful and white, and their rooms were massive and like really, like well done. Like they were goals, and I wasn't, and it bothered me. And so I guess for a while I tried to fake it, and I wouldn't show people like the inside of my house, and I'd be really careful. Like I'd go take like all of my videos, I'd go like stand in front of a white wall and make sure that I didn't get like the mess and like real life in it, because I thought people wouldn't like me if I wasn't one of those moms, if I didn't have everything and I didn't have nice clothes and all that. And gosh, I don't even really know the tipping point, to be honest, besides I finally just got to the point where I was like, no, this isn't fun. It's not enjoyable. It's so stressful for me to create images because I'm not even working with the little bit that I do have. Like I kind of was like fighting against, my reality in some sense. And I was like, not everybody has a perfect home or a great wardrobe or, whatever. And so I think I just started being really true to myself, and I tend to be a little bit more on the sarcastic and funny side. Once I started doing my stories, and I think like one day I just specifically showed everybody the mess. Like I was like, this is my reality. My house is always a mess. Ta-da! And I got this huge response, and people were like, thank you. Like you were so real, and that's how my house looks, and I don't feel so bad now. And so I just realized that people started really relating to me on that very real level of I'm no different than you. Just because I have a few extra followers doesn't make me special. It doesn't make me, anything abnormal. Like I'm really as normal as they come. Go ask my husband, he'll tell you. I wanted all the moms out there too to know, like, it's okay. It's okay to have a bad day, to not be insta perfect, and like my kids aren't perfect. So I guess my take was I just got sick of it. I got sick of all the insta perfection that I saw, and I was like, somebody needs to change the culture.
Just like you're saying, I think so many more people can relate to that. So is that kind of when Honestly Mommy was born?
I've been Honestly Mommy since the beginning. I wanted to start blogging, and then honesty has just always been a huge like character trait that people have always told me, like, you're really honest. Just basically started to overhaul my page and go, all right, out with the crap and being like everybody else and trying to fit in. And yeah, and so I just started being myself and actually like incorporating, like I like bright colors, and that just really wasn't an Instagram thing at the time. You didn't do bright colors. And so I just, started overhauling my feed and going, I don't care. I don't care anymore that my feed doesn't look like everybody else's. So that's when I feel like things really changed, and people started to be more attracted to me on a genuine level because I was being real.
People connecting more too with you because you're not so unreachable that it's like, oh gosh, like this person lives in a glass house over there and everything's perfect. Like you're like, hey, you know what?
Right.
I can actually be friends with this person, or I can actually relate to this person. This happened to me yesterday, so that's awesome. And I think that's so important for like, especially moms to see, because moms are so hard on themselves about like, is this normal to happen this way, or why can't I do this? So that's awesome that you're taking this platform and turning it into that. I know another thing you had kind of talked about was even through growing your platform, still seeing those other Insta moms and influencers and still kind of comparing yourself to them. So how do you kind of get out of that comparison mode and just, stick to what, you're good at and stick to like your story basically?
Oh man, like comparison is such a hard one. I just got on my stories the other day and did a big rant just because I felt like I had to own up to the fact that I was feeling jealous of some other moms and their success. And social media makes it so hard because all we ever see is how successful everyone is and their best days and how they're winning. And it makes it hard. People don't get to be with me in the really hard minutes, and I'll share about it later sometimes, and sometimes I won't. So I feel like the comparison game, number one, it's all in our head because all we ever see is like the good stuff. But I think at that point now, being on this side of it and realizing, okay, if this is my life, and my life isn't perfect, then I can bet, even though her life looks perfect, it's not. And I think the other thing, just with part of my journey and where I've really been working hard at, is I am not in competition with anybody. It doesn't matter if you succeed or if she succeeds or whatever. There's enough room for all of us. I'm in competition with no one except myself because I want to do better and I want to achieve my dreams. So I'm sitting here being jealous of somebody else or comparing myself with somebody else or trying to replicate their style and stuff is not going to get me anywhere. If anything, it's only going to stop you in your tracks in some sense and allow you not to achieve your dream. It's freed me up to just be me because I'm I just want to be the best version of myself and work really hard to achieve the dreams that I feel like I have in my heart.
I've talked to other moms that, are Insta moms or they're just have some kind of social media platform, and they talk all about the mom shaming and just different ways to deal with it. So do you deal with mom shamers, and how do you personally deal with people like that try to come after you or put you down for something?
So yes, there is always going to be haters. I've dealt with it on different levels and at different times. I feel like every couple of months you'll get another round. Sometimes it's totally random and it's just trolls and they're being stupid. Basically daily, I get at least one rude comment. They're not super duper mean. My eyebrows were picked on. There was a couple of months I got multiple comments from different accounts about my eyebrows, my freaking eyebrows. You guys, if you have nothing better to do than to pick on my eyebrows, get a life. Just keep scrolling. The harder I have worked at keeping my page, I want my page to be a very safe place that women can come. They can share their happy things. They can share their hard things. So the harder I've worked at doing that and just being inclusive to everybody, it's funny, but the less trolls I've gotten, I think because it's kind of what you put out there comes back to you. I don't leave room for it for the most part. I don't care. It's whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Either you're going to let it beat you down and ruin you in a sense, or you have to sit there and really look it square in the eye and go, you don't know me. That's not the truth. And this is who I am. So I feel like I am stronger on the other side of it.
So I usually like to end these interviews with, I call them fun thinking questions, just because they're I get each mom's perspective on things. So If you could have a billboard made today where you shared one tips with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
Do what's right for you. Just trust your instincts as a mom. You're probably a way better mom than you actually believe.
I love that. What would you say is the best part about being a mom?
I love having these little human beings who absolutely adore you. And even when you're having a grumpy day, they're your biggest fans, and like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and they're going to love you anyways, and they're going to give you a hug, and all is right in the world. I mean, there's just nothing that quite compares to the way that a child adores their mom. They just do. I'm just saying they do.
That's awesome. So then to go on the other side of the spectrum, what is the hardest part about being a mom? Or what was like something in the past that was the hardest?
I think it's being isolated, because we get sucked into nap schedules and routines, and you just end up being home a lot. Making mom friends can be hard. Finding women that you trust and that you know aren't going to judge you or mom shame you at some random moment is really, really hard. So, I'm like, it's a hard thing to tackle, but it's worth it.
If you could give yourself a piece of advice, like go back in time to when you first became a mom and gave yourself advice, what would you say?
Oh, I think I would say stress less. We're so anxious and so stressed all the time about everything, and like, did I give them enough organic food, and did I give him enough avocados when he was a baby that he's going to be smart now? Like, I think we overthink. Everything feels like a mountain rather than just being like, like a little molehill. It's like, that really wasn't that big of a deal, Steph.
Finally, what is one wish you have for your children?
I just really want them to be themselves. Like, I think that's one of the hard things with parenting too. Again, you're working with like the temper tantrums, and you're working with the big emotions. And so you're trying to like field them through what's like appropriate and what's not. But at the same time, I want to help develop their personalities and their good characteristics, and even like some of the bad things. Like, we want to be able to work through some of that and like help raise them to be themselves. I don't want them to be who I want them to be. I want them to be their own little person and to be confident. I want them to know that they are smart and pretty and fun and enjoyable. And so I think that's something that I try to talk through with them a lot, is just like, being yourself is a good thing. Be you.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for like being here today and just like giving me some of your time. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram?
Thank you for having me. So I'm Stephanie Peltier, but you can find me on Instagram as Honestly Mommy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm Christa from Mommy Knows Best. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Mommy Knows Best. And we have our private Facebook group called Mommy Knows Best, Judgment Free Mom Tribe.